that'll be the 2020.
So they might have been racked once or twice at this point.
Right.
Like they're just getting started. I don't even taste a wine until it's at least a year in.
So you're 2 years out basically from
Generally.
from harvest to bottle.
It depends on the vintage, but anywhere from 18 months at a minimum, at least on reds. Whites, you can turn around anywhere from 4 months to 18 months. The reds, you're at a minimum of 18 months typically to 30, 34, 60 months even maybe on some.
Depends on what it is.
Depends on the year.
So what are you looking forward to this year? What's good? Which one of your wines do you think are going to be your best ones?
That's coming out.
That's the ones that's coming. The new vintage coming out. The 2025s aren't out yet. We've only got 20 still.
Oh yeah, those are years away. That 2021 Cabernet Sauvignon that's sitting up there, I think is one of the best wines that I've ever made. And I don't know if I can do it again because the weather gods cooperated that year and we're dependent on the weather in Texas.
And that was just a good year.
And that's a new wine. It's going really well in the tasting room. I've entered in a couple of competitions. We will see what happens.
I advise you guys to check this guy out. He's not in a lot of places, and so this is why I want to do this interview with you guys, just to really kind of tell you he's kind of like one of those little hidden gem places. He knows what he's doing, and he makes good wine, and that's why I decided to work with him and talk to him about this. So this is your favorite one right now for this year? Is it what about the one that's currently in the barrels? Anything looking good right now? Was it a good
year?
year?
In an instant.
And that would be what?
Us as great growers and winemakers in Texas are not dumb enough to say what's going to come out is going to be very good because it can all end tomorrow.
Right, because
we had golf ball size hail in Kerrville and Comfort, my part of the world, 2 nights ago. There was a lot of vineyards that got wiped out over there.
Oh man,
a lot of real unhappy people. It's still winter in the high plains where we're at, but that doesn't mean bud breaks not tomorrow and we lose everything the day after.
Yeah, so we don't know yet, right?
And the stuff that's in barrels, again, that takes time. Time is the key ingredient. I've tasted through all of the 2023 stuff here a while back, and they've only been in for a year. So they're still kind of funky. They're not ready yet.
Yes.
But seeing where they're going to go is half of the battle. So
and
it's okay, so this one...
Is it looking good?
Yeah, I mean, well, they need more time. I could tell that hands down across the board.
Sure.
So you get things from a wine that you wouldn't normally want. And when I first smelled of the 2023 Cab, I swear somebody had put cedar sawdust in it. That's what it smelled like to me. And the employee that was there that day said, "Smell that? What do you smell?" And she said, "Cedar." I said, "Our vineyard's 1,000 miles from the nearest cedar tree." Well, not that far, 300 miles. There shouldn't smell like cedar. That's just a characteristic of the terroir coming out of the grape. It's almost resiny, like pine resin, but it's because the wine's not mature yet. It needs time. And once it sat in the glass for 5 minutes, it was gone. Thank goodness. Because that would be terrible if it stayed there the rest of the time.
That would have been bad.
It's something you don't want.
Right. Well, you did mention terroir, so I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to get to that point. So, obviously, we've got the rocks in the Rhone Valley. They're known for that. We have the Coonawarra soil in Australia. We have the Alianico with the what's their Tarazi area, the volcanic clay and limestone soil. So let's talk about I guess Comfort because you know that better. So
our vineyards are southwest of Lubbock. Actually, that's the area that I know better, and that's where most of the wine grapes in Texas are at.
And you have none there, but that Comfort is not in that area.
There's no tourists out where the vineyards are at southwest of Lubbock. That's why the tasting room and I make most of the wine there in Comfort because that's where tourists will come to.
Got it. Well, let's talk about both those places then. So let's talk about the terroir that's up in that Lubbock area, right? That you're not up in that. What's the terroir there that where most of the grapes are growing for Texas? So let's talk about that.
Sandy clay.
Sandy clay
is most of the soil. Very little loam, which you need lots of green things to get loamy soil, which we don't really have out in the desert. It's a semi-arid grassland, but it's the depth of that soil that also makes a big difference when you're talking about terroir in the high plains. Where we have 10 to 14 inches of sandy clay over caliche. So caliche starts in 10 inches, 12 inches, which is very shallow soil. If you go to Brownfield, where I said that's 500 feet lower, Most of the places in Terry County, they have soil 12 or 14 feet thick, not inches. So they have higher yields, completely different tasting wines because the terroir is different. And my aunt and uncle have a vineyard that's about another 5 miles west of us towards New Mexico, and their vineyard is planted right into the caliche. There's not even an inch of dirt. And what little bit there is chalky white caliche dust. I mean, there's almost nothing. Even the grass won't grow there.
Chalky dust. So white wines grow pretty good there? Cool area.
They do have some Chardonnay. They also have Malbec and Cab.
Okay.
So, but it's completely different soil profile than we have.
So Nolan, Newsom. Let's talk about Newsom vineyards. What is that? What are those sitting on? What are you growing that through?
What's it? Sandy clay, about 10 inches deep over caliche.
So that's what.
So it's some of the worst farmland on our farm. And the reason the vineyards are there is because a stressed grapevine will make better quality fruit. So at Newsom Vineyards, we grow for quality, not quantity. So we're averaging 2.5 tons per acre, where some of our neighbors with those deep 14-foot thick soils I mentioned are doing 8, 10, 12, 14 tons per acre, which is high yielding. Yes, they can make a lot more fruit than us and make a lot more quantity of wine, but it's not going to be the stuff on people's reserve programs and on the top shelf.
Right.
Like the high quality wines.
Yes.
There's a difference between quality and quantity.
Yes.
We grow for quality.
And how much yield do you grow that you actually make yourself versus what you sell?
Oh, I think 13 years in, at this point, 9 years to the tasting room, I'm up to using 1% of Newsom Vineyards production.
And you're selling 99% of the juice or the grapes?
So we were farmers first. We
Yes.
sell wine grapes to 28 different wineries in Texas currently.
Well, you probably name some of them. I don't think they'll mind that. I mean, can we name that, or would we give
Sure,
you
the ones I can think of off the top of my head. Out here in this part of the world, not really any around Tomball per se. I don't know, you have Valley Mills Winery and Kippersall that are out towards Waco Temple area. There's a bunch in the hill country, because again, that's where most of the wineries and tasting rooms are at, because there's tourists and people. Some in the DFW area, and a couple in the Lubbock area, and actually one in Amarillo, Texas.
They're buying all your grapes.
But names you've probably heard of: Pedernales, Becker, Lewis, Calais, Texas Hills.
Okay.
Llano Estacado Winery, Bar Z Winery, and there's a lot more on top of that.
Are they taking your juice and blending it, or are they taking your juice and making it into their single varietal?
It depends on the winery there. Once they buy the fruit, it's theirs.
Sure.
But most of the wineries that we sell to put vineyard designation on the label, meaning the fruit is 100% from that vineyard. So to be able to put Newsom Vineyards on the label, it has to be 100%. And people know when they see the Newsom Vineyards name that it's synonymous with quality. So they usually do that, but they don't have to. That's a choice, not a requirement.
And are some of these other, and you mentioned some great wineries. I mean, obviously, probably love Pedernales. I think Llano Estacado, they're the biggest one in Texas. And do they put your name on their back of their bottle? Newsom Vineyards.
Of course, you'll ask why you can't go to the grocery store and find it. Well,
yes. Why?
That's the blush and sweet red. That all of that juice comes from California. That's what they make because that's what pays the bills.
Sure.
The stuff that's vineyard designated is tasting room wine club only in their tasting rooms. You actually have to go to the tasting room to find these good wines, and that's why most people still don't know that there's good wine in Texas.
Right.
So most of the wineries that we sell wine grapes to, our wines almost always are in the wine club tasting room only program. So if you don't drive to that winery, you'll never find it in the grocery store.
Did you hear that?
Across the board.
So Texas has good wine, okay? And so you need to kind of dig out there. Not all your HEBs and not all your liquor stores that you talk about here. They're not going to have those wines. And so definitely get out there and go to some of these tasting rooms. And again, Blue Bonnet tasting room.
They are still resources, and there's no reason you can't go and try those wines.
Yeah.
But most of the Texas wines that are in distribution, even if they're made in Texas, the grapes come from out of state.
Exactly.
So here's a useless number for you. Only 12% of all the wine made in Texas is Texas grown fruit. So most of it still comes from somewhere else.
Right.
But right here in Tomball, the Tomball HEB that's right here down the road, John Harvey, that's the wine buyer for that HEB. He's a huge supporter of Texas wine. He can tell you where you need to go, what to taste, things of that nature. But he's an exception to the rule when you're looking for Texas wine.
And I'm going to work on that as well. I want to get into the Texas wine side a little bit because we do have some good wines and we need people pushing it. And so I think me being a chef, we've got good, former chef, but we have some really good food in here. And I think people need to push more of the Texas wines in the Texas restaurants.
Texas, truly 100% Texas wine will always be more expensive than what you can get from somewhere else in the world because it's harder to grow here. It's more expensive to grow here. Labor's more expensive here. Costs across the board are always more. So no matter what happens, Texas will never have wine, at least not for a long, long time, as cheap as California wine.
Right. Well, they've been doing it a lot longer, and they've got the
and that too.
Yes, they've got the clout, and while I do appreciate California wines, and I really do, I think a lot of the personally, this is personal. Everybody has the same bloody wines on the menu, man. I mean, I can go from one restaurant to the next restaurant. I can go 45 miles into town, and it's the same bloody wines, and I just don't get that. I mean, I think
that's what makes Tejas Barbecue, you mentioned right down the road here, unique. They're all Texas barbecue. They wanted Texas wine to go on the list. They have all Texas beers. He's working on building a bar, and he's going to have a mostly Texas liquor list, which is kind of fun.
Yeah,
he's a supporter of all things Texas, which
we need to grow that.
We need more of that.
We need to grow that brand, Texas brand, pretty much. And we're not all cowboys driving horses around here, man. I promise you.
My horses were John Deere green and yellow. Still a country boy, but I didn't have any horses.
Yeah, it is. There's some things about Texas that are the rumors about Texas are true. We'll let you figure out what that is, pew wise anyway. But yeah, anyway, with that said, but Nolan, listen, thank you very much. I really appreciate this. I hope that you learned a lot here today, and we want to again, if you're out here in Tomball, Texas, at the Blue Bonnet Tasting Room, what's the address?
401 Commerce Street, and the other tasting room is in Comfort, Texas, south of Fredericksburg, 20 miles, 717 Front Street, Comfort, Texas.
Comfort, Texas. There you go. So this is 100% Texas fruit.
100%
Texas wine.
Vineyards.
Family vineyards. So, and yes, it's phenomenal wine.
So there's 18 wineries out of 800 in Texas that can say they grow and produce all of their own. So one of the few already.
Yes. And that's happening. So expect to hear a little bit more from us Texans on our wine. We're going to be really pushing that, and I'm definitely going to be pushing that a little bit more. But anyway, thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate you. Thank you, Nolan.
Absolutely.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, all my followers and all my friends and all my wine lovers. And bon appetit to you.